Pathfinder International Party Group, celebrating their 75th anniversary. And this is about to allow all to enable time we've got just one or two pleasure flights still for sale in the Tiger Moss courtesy of Aerolegend. Just for £95. You can find yourself airborne with one of the Aerolegend. And we're flying from 5 o'clock.
So it's a Q&A with Parky, myself, Nick, actually, and Greg as well. So we have the four of us here. You can ask any questions from what it's like to run a page of enthusiasts to history on the aeroplane, what it's like to run the company, and troubles in actually operating the aircraft, or what it's like to fly them. And Parky's career is another one, so everything from Red Arrows through to Vegan there. And then, you know, really climaxing on flying our little Robin back and forth between Dutch.
The highlight. She's a beauty.
So what we did at headquarters, I asked the first question, and then we just let it go around the room. So my one to you, Parky, would be, what's your highlight of flying with us?
I think there's been a few, but the air show last year was brilliant. I don't know if any of you went to Headcorn. I mean, I absolutely love that. It's, you know, obviously the history that Nick's covered as well, but it's in, you know, smack bang in the middle of Kent. I'm a local boy from Sussex anyway, so I did, back in '82, I flew another Robin out of there. God, I must have been frightening. Can't believe they let me have it. But it's a really friendly little air show, and I just remember just jumping out, and it was glorious weather. We lucked in. It's been a bit of a troubled season. But it was just, you know, full display. I was flying TD, and you just get so close to the crowd, and you can really sense the excitement, the buzz. You know, I've done a lot of Ret'ds and the big shows and stuff like that, and to me they're so sterile compared to places like Headcorn, where, you know, you taxi in and I feel like I'm putting my wingtip through all the kids' heads. Sorry about that, but it's just brilliant. You really get up close to the crowd, and you feel it, and the interaction I found really pleasurable. But yeah, just. Definitely last year the Headcorn air shows were really great, and I think that evening as well there was a Leeds Castle. It was a beautiful night as well, and just displaying at Leeds Castle, you know, that is a breathtaking venue. Touch wood, you know, we have been just so lucky for the weather at Leeds Castle over the last 3 years, and it's just been, you know, it's absolutely in the evening, so the sun is just setting, and you know, it is just fabulous. You're aware that there's a lot of people down there, but just to have a Spitfire and a sunset. And 8 minutes just to entertain, it's magical without that.
It's a bit Top Geary, this, isn't it?
We were trying to work out who Hammond, and we think definitely Clarkson, but
Captain Slow.
I just want to say on behalf of everybody here, thank you for your service and
Pleasure.
your years of giving immense
I've loved it.
fun to everybody. My question to you is, if you're still in BDMF,
Yeah.
and you had some kind of say, what is the one single engine, twin engine or 4-engined aircraft you would like to see added to the EMF fleet?
Good question. And
And
it's
if
one
you
that
don't give me the right answer, I will chase you.
I bet I know the right answer.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, and
Go on then.
it's not a 109.
No, it's a British
it's
aircraft.
a Mosquito.
Thank you.
And it is bizarre actually. I had it was fascinating. I don't know why, but Smithy at the time, his passport had run out, and there was a kind of rumour of trying to acquire a Mosquito. It never really materialised. It was sort of retro, and they had a Gladiator. But in Norway they had a lovely Mosquito, which actually the RAF had given. It was painted in Norwegian colours, but it was an RAF one. It hadn't seen Norwegian service. And it was a light fighter bomber trainer, so it would have ticked all the boxes, and it had Merlin,
We need one, don't
7
we?
Series, yeah. And went to look round it, and it was just gobsmacking. The Norwegians were incredibly friendly, and literally they came out, they opened up the museum, we just clambered all over it, and it smelt like any RAF aircraft. Probably some of us had done chipmunk flying back in the 70s, 80s, smelt identical, it smelled of RAF aircraft. And it was just weird, sitting in this Mosquito, it was either 2 Spitfires, or it was half a Lancaster. You know, you could take it either way, and it was, you know, the same start buttons. You're probably aware, but if you do sit in, well, you'll sit in TD in a moment, but the instrument panel, you could take that out and you could put it in a Hurricane, or you could put it in a Mosquito, or you could put it in a Lancaster. And it's such a clever idea that that instrument panel was interchangeable, and it's saved cost, but also for the ATA pilots, quickly jump in, you're in bad weather, top left is always the airspeed indicator, so it's just brilliant, but just the same start buttons, the same throttle, the same. It's just weird how the switches, the cockpit layout was. And again, if you sit in the Lancaster, I don't know if it's just Jane or you know, in our one, but it is just 4 Spitfires. It's the same 4 engine instruments, they are straight from the Spitfire. So, you know, the wooden one day, it was just, I think, you know, Eric Winkle-Brown, you know, he definitely raised the Mountain Spitfire as one of his top aircraft of all times. And if ever there was the greatest test pilot ever, I'm sure most of you will be aware.
Put one onto a carrier.
He landed a Mosquito on a carrier. And again, you know, below sort of stall speed at about sort of 65 miles an hour. Just extraordinary, but the versatility of that aircraft. I sat on my leaving do, I guess a couple of sort of Saturdays ago. I had a guy called George Dunn, who he flew Mosquitoes as well as a number of other aircraft, Sterling time, but Mosquito, and we chatted to him about it, and the fastest he did from the UK to Berlin and back was 4 hours 15. And that's pretty quick going in a Mozzie, you know, we're like, Jesus, George. He was a very, very sharp guy, but he just, again, just, you know, he just a delight to fly, so fast, so powerful, packed in, you know, that, you know, a real punch. 20mm, the nose was full of cannon and machine gun, and obviously internal bomb bay. Just a brilliant concept and design, lightweight wooden construction. So, yeah.
What are the chances of it ever happening?
Do you know, there's a 3rd airframe in New Zealand at the moment. That's where it's done. And you know, and there's people's Mosquito, and I think there's another one as well. There's definitely, you know, rumblings of how we could get a Mosquito flying in the UK, and you know, it would be fabulous to do it. But I think the absolute problem is with the CAA. The CAA, because we're not allowed experimental license stuff, that's how the Americans do it. So it's still New Zealand registered, but it would be, the CAA would always have to come on board early on to go, right, wooden, glue, we're happy with the product, all of that stuff. And I think that they were optimistic that was a possibility, but clearly some funding needs to be done first before they can, it's a bit chicken and egg, before they can go, right, that airframe is going to the UK for whatever money. And then the CAA need to get involved pretty early, because once it's all done, they'll go, well, we don't know what to do, we don't know, and then they wouldn't give the license and the paperwork. So, I don't know, I think it's an aspiration, probably most of us in the room, I'd love to see it, just a mixed formation of a Spitfire and a Lancaster, you know, it just would be magical, wouldn't it? Yeah, beautiful, beautiful aircraft. Thank you, good question, yeah.
So we were talking at the beginning when we came in about that photograph that was in the Times after you landed
Yeah,
P7 for the last time.
I wasn't crying.
I don't know if anyone
Well,
was
to my hair.
Could you just tell us what was going through your mind when it was
Yeah, I mean,
come
it
to the end?
was, you know, after that, I flew TV today, and every time I jump in her, she is genuinely a gorgeous Spitfire.
Yeah.
But the Spitfire on BB Memphis P7, it's Battle of Britain veteran, 603 Squadron, out of Hornchurch, and the only airworthy Battle of Britain aircraft. And you know, there's something magical, you know, the whole Battle of Britain thing, you know, I'm sure speaking to the converted, but grew up on the movie, just the whole bizarre that, you know, 3,000 young 18-year-olds had this country's, you know, destiny in their hands, and it was a close fought thing, and we won, and P7 was there. So, you know, it was Lynx Lancs, it was the traditional end. That didn't happen because Storm Brian or something or other hit the UK, so it was a bit. But really was like, mate, you're going to fly P7 for the last time.
Yeah.
It actually happened the following Friday, and the Lanc was flying as well. So, you know, really all my family came over, some of my old Typhoon mates. It was just magical. I had 40 minutes, found some clouds to play with P7, led the Lancaster around. Well, Millie was battling a headwind to get back in the chipmunk. It's a long story, but essentially it was just a wonderful feeling, and you know, I shut it down for the last time. I'm very sad, but I went through my logbook and I counted all the times I've flown P7. I'm sure I've probably flown NH more now. It will be soon, but I flew her 180 times, which is quite nice. It's a round number. It's good for me. 180. So yeah, that's you know enough. I've been so lucky. You know, the brutal realisation. You know, I won't fly her again. You know, she's an RAF aircraft. That's it. But I'll let the other boys share. I've definitely tried to hog her at times. But yeah, fabulous bit of machinery, and you know, a privilege. That's, you know, it's an overused word, but I've had the chance to fly her. You know, to come back. There's magical moments, but often you do sort of evening events, especially in September. A lot of the times at RAF events, sometimes Battle of Britain dinners, you might do Hendon, those sort of things. But often on your own, you're coming back and you're heading north, and over the left wing, you just watch the sunset. And especially in P7, it turns kind of golden colour, the brown. It's really weird. It turns bronze, and just you know, just literally just she purrs and just 20 minutes, watch the sunset as you land, and it's almost dusk. You know, the flames out of it. It really is an overload of emotion. And you really feel that, you know, you've got the boys are sort of with you somehow. It's very, very, very special. And I've had 11 years of that, so yeah, all of that was almost encompassed in it. Hard to describe, but yeah, it was very special.
Thanks.
1939 and 1945, both those years, the start of the war, the end of the war, you're a fighter pilot. Which aircraft would you choose to go to battle in 1939? And which in 1945 to be Allied?
Yeah, it's going to be. I would definitely choose the Spitfire. You know, and it was so in 1939 it'd be a Mark 1, but very soon Mark 2. So you know, variable pitch propeller, which absolutely, you know, it's like a 2-speed gearbox. You know, took off in fine and then clunked it, almost going from sort of 2nd to 4th gear in a car. Is what you had, and then the variable pitch Mark 2. You know, which were 1940 essentially by the battle. They were pretty much all variable pitch, but. Yeah, absolutely be a Spitfire, and you know it is an extraordinary aircraft. Just you know, we have to mention the Dion Hurricane. You know, 3/5 kills. There were more of them, but somehow the Spit. You turn into a Spitfire snob. You know, my first warbird trip was a Hurricane. I love it, but there's something about the Spitfire. You just want to fly it, and you know, Luftwaffe pilots who were shot down by Hurricanes were annoyed. They wanted to have been shot down by a Spitfire. It makes no sense, but they just, there was something that is iconic, that is unquantifiable about this aircraft. It's beautiful. That's why you're here. One of you hopefully going to get to fly in NH, but I think it would definitely be the Spitfire. It is just that performance. You know, Nick mentioned the firepower. You know, 8 Brownings. You know, they're still. I'd love to fire 8 Brownings. You know, that must have been an amazing smell of cordite. You know, they zeroed them pretty close in, and you know, they tried the cannons. You know, they had some 1Bs bizarrely and a few 2Bs, maybe the Mark 5s. The B wing was the first one to be the 20mm, and then 2 303s as well. The E wing was some bombing stuff, but the 50 cal and the 20mm. So the wings changed, but you know, it packed a hell of a punch. The way it flew, the agility, the speed, the handling qualities. You know, I've been so lucky having chats like this to Geoffrey Wellen and just hearing him talk about throwing the Spitfire around when there was a 1 and 9 on your tail, and just what he would do. You know, he would absolutely pull till he blacked out. You know, he was a young man, very fit, so probably, you know, we're talking 6G, 7G, that sort of. He would pull till he couldn't see. The 1 and 9 couldn't, you know, stay with him at that. He would pull, so he would high speed depart it, high speed stall it if required. He would spin it if a 1 and 9 was on his tail, and the handling qualities are perfect as you get near the limit of its you know, a car that's just about to flick and spin. You know, it's like my analogy would be, you know, from talking to the boys, you know, the 109 was almost like a Porsche 911 turbo in the wet, where, you know, she's good, but then suddenly she'll let go, and without warning almost, you know, quite frightening near the edge of its flying envelope. You know, it would snatch, it would depart, whereas a Spitfire would buff it, it would warn you, it would go, you know, you were so slow, you're pulling too much. But even the benign on the stall on a Spitfire is benign. Incredible handling qualities, near the edge of its flying regime. So that's what you want in an aircraft, certainly in a fighter aircraft, you know, because you're looking over your shoulder just flying the thing. And the handling qualities are perfect. So absolutely a Spitfire. You know, come the end of the war, do you know, I think you'd be hard pressed to not jump in a 16 or a Mark 14 or a Mark 18 Spitfire. You know, it was one of those aircraft that it was ripe for development. The old Hurricane started with a Mark 1, they kept the production line going until 44. But the 2C, you know, it's got a bigger radiator, it's better armour, but essentially it's the same aircraft. You couldn't really develop the Hurricane anymore, but she was what she was. Very good, but almost at the end of her development in 1940. Whereas the Spit was right for it, you know, with the metal, the tubular frame, etc. So, you know, jump in the Mark 19, the Griffin engine one, and almost no components are the same. You can see they're Spitfires, but if you park a Mark 1 and a Mark 19 next to each other, it's like that thing's been to the gym and had steroids for 5 years and then smoked 30 fags a day. You know, it's almost that great big beefy machine, but still a Spitfire.
You're still
lovely.
Spitfire with a Mustang in it, or?
Yeah, definitely. I haven't flown a Mustang, but the boys that fly, you know, heavy in pitch. Whereas again, I don't know, a Mark 19, very light, delicate in pitch to fly. You know, really easy to overstress. We have a 4G limit on our BBMF ones, and you know, you'd be absolutely up on 4G. You know, and a bit above it, you could be easily. You'd be very careful, and that's you just know there's so much more in your tank on that. You know, you can 8 or 9G. You know,
Do you find between the Mark 1 and the later Mark, do you find the performance difference marginal or huge?
I think the performance difference would be if you could use all the power. So when you jump into TD, you'll see there's a boost gauge. So it just, you know, Americans measured, you know, inches of mercury. We just pounds of boost. And you know, it goes to, it's a bit bizarre, you know, it's where the supercharger is, so you get negative boost, 0, it's actually a cruise boost, +4, you'll get airborne, +6, you'll get airborne really quick. But the gauge goes up to +20 something or other. And you know, with the intercoolers, the 2-stage superchargers, the 7 Series Merlins would go up to +18 regularly. I remember chatting to some old mate, and he came up and went, how many vertical rolls have you done in it? I was like, I haven't done any. You know, I'll do a loop, but you know, literally point it 90 nose up and roll. And he had done 13 before eventually, you know, literally 13 just fell out of the sky. But he said he'd get to about 400, and he was using +18, had so much torque that it would help the roll if you went left as well. But extraordinary, and I felt embarrassed to say I've only ever used +7, and he looked at me like I was some sort of how awful, you know. But those boys would use so much power. So because actually, you know, when we fly them, and you know, if Charlie and me were doing a display, we both set about +6. If there was a little Mark II, he'd set +6 as well. Although that thing would only go to +10 in the war because it didn't have all the intercoolers, etc. The performance is about the same, but it was actually at the upper end that you would get the extra performance from the Griffins and the 2-stage superchargers kicking in, etc. So unless you went to 25,000 feet and, you know, really operated these aircraft, I think that's where you would really see, oh, a Mark 9 is definitely better than a 5, which is definitely better than a 2. But actually at the +6 display settings we use, and they scream, they go so well at that. The 2's almost quicker because it's lighter, you know, at the moment. So, yeah, the performance, you know, is staggering. And throughout the war, it just got better and better until eventually jets just took over because you couldn't get more. You know, they were clicking in about 2,000 horsepower, pretty much everything. You know, with the Sabre engines, you know, in the yeah, exactly that. They doubled the horsepower.
Is it fair to say Parky also, the owner of Aero Legends, encourages you to fly?
He likes the.
He gets told off if he doesn't put it.
When you fly, I love being on the ground. Actually, you see Charlie display, or you know, Pete Kinsley flying, and you know, just watching it, because you do hear that supercharger whine, and you get that beautiful noise of the Merlin, and you get the, which is the Doppler, you know, the tone. Whereas obviously when you fly, I hope one of you will fly. You know, it's a lovely engine, but it's the same noise the whole time. It purrs, but you don't quite get the soundtrack that you get at a display. But yes, absolutely right. Ben's dad is a give it a +8 Parky. Sounds good. It's his engine. Yeah.
So, I might already know the answer to this. What haven't you flown that you would love to fly?
You know, I'd never say this.
Bear in mind what you said
There were no Harrier pilots in the room at the moment, but when I was on the Reds, I joined with 2 mates who were Harrier boys, and they always said I was going to fly in a Harrier, but I just never got around to it. And, you know, it would have been quite fun to have a go and move the nozzles, and probably quite difficult. They laughed at me, but actually that would have probably been a cool aircraft to have a go in. You know, in terms of jets, you know, I'm sure there's lots of aircraft, but you know, I flew the 16, which was just the coolest jet, and a Typhoon. An F-18 is, you could definitely pull more angle of attack, more alpha, but I filled my boots in jets and done those. You know, I wouldn't mind a go in a German aircraft just to see a 109 or a 190, just to see. And I think, you know, Eric Brown and certainly Jeffrey Wellman, they were fascinated by what the Luftwaffe had, just, you know, because it was the opposition, just to see how they were. You know, Eric Brown filled his boots. You know, he flew every German aircraft ever. He flew the 163 Comet with the tea stuff and the whatever in it, you know, which is mental. But you know, it was amazing, and we obviously had, I think it was 126 at, it was near Wittering, but a flight of aircraft that were all just German aircraft. You know, they inadvertently landed them, and so they just painted RAF Roundels on Yugas 88s and 109s and 190s. But you know, I remember it's fascinating seeing Eric Brown talk, and they flew a Mark 9 against the 190, and startling how the performance was almost identical. Slightly better roll rate on the 190. The Spit had it a little bit at 10,000, then the 190 was better, then the Spit was better at 25,000. But you know, it was almost the best pilot would win. That was, you know, and the firepower, etc. And then as soon as the 9, then we went to something slightly better with the 14 Griffin engine, and we were constantly that race with performance that I guess the war accelerated it. You know, it's amazing when you think of 1939 to 45, you know, what we started with and what we had. You know, and equally, and you know, I remember reading in March 36 was the first flight of the Spitfire. We were still getting delivery of brand new biplane Bulldogs and Hearts, you know, brand new. And overnight they were out of date. Overnight, because this thing called a Hurricane had flown in November 35 and a Spitfire was now flying. Double the airspeed overnight. But it was extraordinary just how it ramped up, and to be honest, continued into the 60s, you know, with the jet age. It was an amazing time that, you know, we've been able to see in 100 years, you know, people will look back at that, and you know, certainly the Jeffrey Wellens of this world, you know, what they flew as well, you know, just incredible. But yeah, I've been extraordinarily lucky with what I've flown. Please don't tell a Harrier pilot I said that. Miserable for me.
What is your favourite time of flying? Is it what you currently
Yeah,
doing?
warbird flying now. I think you know, when I first joined the RAF, I just wanted to go fast jets, and you know, you do just you know, fly operations and fly on a squadron. But you know, sort of almost by accident, you know, got into the display world. But absolutely, you know, warbird flying, it is definitely, you know, again, my analogy would be, you know, a vintage Bentley to a Formula One car now. I bet we'd all love a go in a Formula One car, or if we had a something equivalent that you could drive a lot. After a while, brilliant, but you quite yearn for that vintage Bentley or that Bugatti, because it's somehow more difficult, yet it's more satisfying when you get it right. And that is the, you know, the Eurofighter Typhoon, amazing 9G, and you know, it's 78 computers, and it's just, you know, it blows your mind what the stuff it can do. You know, it just does stuff. But to fly it, actually, you know, you let go of the stick, there's no trim, it just flies where you put it. It's quite easy to fly, it's got delta wing, it's got some nuances to it, but it's not a difficult aircraft to fly. To operate everything, you can get behind it, and it's, you know, it's just got loads of systems in it. But actually, the qualities of the Spitfire talks to you, and how it handles all of that stuff, I personally think ultimately a more rewarding experience at the end of the day. You know, talking about the sun setting and the whole thing of the Spitfire. You know, I think it ticks absolutely every box, which is why, you know, the 2 seats, why, you know, it is, you know, it's quite a big business, as you know, Ben will testify to. You know, it's you know, bookings are great because, you know, I think it's actually, the CA is really cool that they have allowed SSAC to happen, that people are allowed to fly in 2-seater Spitfires. 4 or 5 years ago it wasn't allowed, you know, you had to do it by joining a club or something or other, but now you can do it. And again, that's testimony to the aircraft, so yeah, I think, again, it's a bit boring really. No imagination.
She's the one. Can I have another one?
Yeah, please, yeah.
You're clearly a fighter pilot at heart. You have had to have token ballast behind you in your career. So how did that work?
Yeah, so, you know, you're right, I remember the first time, you know, from attack weapons, and, you know, I was at sort of the golden age where I think there were 7 fighters that you could get. It was kind of weird, literally you just do your posting, and the instructors would think of different ways to torture the new as to what you were getting, and our one was eggs. So you literally got an egg box, and I think you had to throw it in the air and headbutt it. And then the softball ones you weren't getting, so they said Harrier, Phantom, Jaguar, Buccaneer, Lightning, it was that sort of stuff. And eventually the one, what was that? Phantom. So I got a Phantom, but it was like, right, 2 seats, okay. I guess I fly with a navigator, and it was great. I loads of my mates were navs, and it was, operating at times, low level, especially in Germany. Bizarrely, the nav wasn't navigating. I would do the navigating at low level around Germany, and generally poor visit the North German planes, and he'd just be operating the radar, and the two of you as a 4-shipper Phantoms. That's how you would do it. It was just all air defence, and great fun. But you would be hard worked with operating an F4 radar and sorting and doing all of that. You really did need the American and weapon systems operators more than navigators. There was no one, to be honest. The F3 as well was great, but I did sort of hanker after going single seats, and it was again just the cockpit. I remember the F-16 the first time, and just doing the whole thing, and it was multi-role, so it's ground attack as well as air defence, and it was busy without a doubt, and you a bit of a one-arm paper hanger at times, but it was very pleasurable doing the radar as well, that whole experience thing.
So 16 was your first
single seat aircraft, yeah, pure single seater. And that's, it's been, I think, you're not sitting in an edge, but actually to sit in a proper single-seat aircraft, TD that you'll be sitting in, in an hour or so, just soak it all in. You sit slightly further back in the single-seater because all the fuel's in front of you. You've got 85 gallons essentially over the centre of gravity. If you balance that Spitfire on your finger, it would be over the fuel tank here. So as the fuel goes down, it doesn't upset the balance, it just gets lighter, so the performance increases. But, yeah, there's something special about an aircraft that's designed as a single-seater, which TD clearly is. Yeah.
When you write your autobiography.
I can't spell. I need somebody to
Get a ghostwriter.
yeah.
Parky, I think it'd be a good read.
Okay. Well,
I do think it'd be a good read.
need some time. Yeah.
No, I do think it'd be a good read.
Yeah. Aero Legends. What's your sort of long-term objectives going
We're
forward?
going to take over from Ryan now.
Probably not that difficult.
He doesn't know this yet.
He's going to pass
Anywhere to go Alicante, right?
Yeah.
Parky's
We're
right.
off. Where's Alicante?
It could be a war zone park in Spain. Let's face it. I think just expanding what we've got to what it can be. I think it does have a limit as to how. I don't think we could justify having a squadron of Spitfires as much as we want. That's your dad would talk. Yeah. But maybe
2C Hurricane.
We've looked at it. Yeah, we've had. There's been proposed. There was a design for a 2C Hurricane, but it's
One's been built.
Do you want to talk about the other aircraft? Yeah. Well, because it's 2C Hurricane, it's just a dicky seat in the back. You don't have controls. So it's more of sitting in the back as a passenger. I mean, one of the benefits of flying with us and the Spitfire is you can actually fly the aeroplane yourself. So,
Which is pretty special.
You need to get a Mosquito then, don't you?
yeah, no, been there, done that. So I went to New Zealand a year and a half ago. Went down there to look at bringing back a Mosquito, and they had a fuselage sat there ready to go. And it's the same issue you picked up with the BBMF. It's a fuselage build with no history. There's no
problems.
That's not necessarily the issue. You can apply an identity to it, but it had no wood samples, no glue samples, no build history, no paperwork to come with it. So
Would it be allowed?
So you
But
spend
it's special for SSAC, for the 2-seater or for a passenger flying. I guess it has to hit the same safety standards as a 737.
You spend £5 million bringing back a wooden fuselage canoe, and it'll come back and they'll go, no, you can't use that. And it was too big a risk to take. And the other issue is that we maintain our aeroplanes with the aircraft restoration company look after most of the flying Spitfires in the world. These guys get taken out to America, all over the world, down to France to maintain Spitfires, to do the 25, 50-hour checks and the annuals on them. They know what they're doing with these. The Mosquito's a total unknown. And what we're experiencing now is maintenance issues in aeroplanes that they would have never run into. We had Elizabeth flew a maximum of 40 hours through the war, and we've done 150 plus in 1 year.
It's a lot. And a lot of landings, a lot of, you know, it's just, yeah.
And what we're seeing is things like undercarriage fatigue. So we have to amend the maintenance schedule to take it. And I think they've allowed it with the Spitfires because they have been operated for years and years and years and years, and as we're changing the maintenance program to fit what we're doing, it all works very nicely. But coming in with a Mosquito, a total unknown, and going, we're going to run a wooden aeroplane on bumpy runways with 2 big Merlins hanging off the front. So
I think the owners also, there's a couple of things he's quite keen on. One was the lightning.
So that won't like a supersonic.
Yeah,
They have to be abroad.
I do hesitate about kicking ideas around because I think it might take me seriously one day. Get in trouble with your mum. But the Lancaster would be, I think, if he had his ultimate.
Another one apart from just Jane.
Yeah, flying Lancaster, but
there's a few around. There's a few around, but to take a Lanc from a similar situation that we've got the Spitfire in to airborne is £30 million.
Yeah.
Plus that.
That's quite a vacuum actually.
Can you fly Lancaster, Parky?
Mid-upper, I can make the guns move. Probably now 3 weeks ago, it was early October, 4th, 3rd. But it was my surprise leaving do was we were flying the Lancaster to the Dutch are amazing actually about digging up remains. So it made the press actually a bit.
Yeah, it was on the news.
There you go. Yeah. So it was a Lancaster that was being. It was almost in sort of boggy, but it was having to be raised. But they knew that the tail gunner was still there, so they did it brilliantly. The priest would be there. Get the remains out, and it will be buried again. It's really moving to do it. So actually, I was still doing the ops thing when this bid came in, and it was like, oh, I'm definitely going to do that. So early October, we'll pencil a date. We'll tell you when we can do it, and then if you could just put something around it. And luckily, all the planets aligned. But they then kept it secret from me that it was going to be as an out and back. So it was like, Mike, do you want to jump on the Lanc? I was like, yeah, absolutely love to. Just as go to Coningsby, fly over, come back, a 4-hour trip, maybe 3.5 hours. But they had this ruse that it was then my leaving bash, and we then landed at, in fact, went to Vunstrecht, and then there was all my old F-16 mates were there, and it was brilliant. We had a few beers with them, it's fabulous. And then flew back the next day. The Lanc boys couldn't get boosted up, but I could. I drank for them to keep it sociable. But as we were sort of coasting in, so we were probably airborne. It takes about 40 minutes to, at 160 to do the crossing. Again, they don't cane the Lanc. They just bimble around at probably 0 boost in the Lanc. And then Seb was flying, he was co-pilot, Twigs was flying it, and I was mid up, and it was like, Parky, do you want to fly? And I was like, oh, wow, brilliant. So he jumped out, and then I sort of flew the Lanc for enemy coast approaching, which was great. We were sort of 500 feet, just seeing the Dutch coast sort of rock out, and that was brilliant. And then we were 16 minutes early, so just did sort of 16 minutes of orbits, just flying this Lanc, and I was amazed how, it's one of those things, a lot of aircraft, when you walk around, it's like, man, it's a big old girl, but actually when you're in it, next to her, it's surprisingly small, and the propeller looks really close, but she was...
aerobatics, weren't they?
Well, get this, Eric Wickle-Brown has rolled a Lancaster.
Yeah.
Has rolled a Lanc. I mean, incredible. He's just done everything, hasn't he?
Meant to be hilarious
yes,
to do that.
Yeah, but it was an utter privilege, and I was just amazed how lovely to fly it was. You could turn it, it had quite a bit of back pressure in the turn, but it was just a delight to fly with the nuances. I put it in my logbook actually as 20 minutes, non-pilot, non-captain, but it was really special. And again, the 55,000 bomber boys, there's a plaque on our Lanc, the boys touch it every time they get off, but it really moving. And again, it was a fabulous. So to answer your question, I was lucky enough to fly it, and I take my hats off to the boys. It's a big old aircraft to operate, and there's some controls going in crosswinds. They're working quite hard. They operate it 2-pilot, so bizarrely, the captain is flying it and the co-pilot is throttles. So even as mid-upper, you're hearing +3, 0, +2, on finals as he wrestles it to the ground. But it's unless that's how good they are, it's hell of a responsibility as well. I flew in Vera, the Canadian one, with Leon was the captain on that one, which was great. So we've got passenger in 2 lanes, and again, it's moving. You know, it would be the most wonderful addition. You know, you can fly the Canadian one, but again, I think they're fully booked. You know, it's just incredible. But that's a you know, a fabulous experience. You know, there's so much more than you expect to be in this amazing bit of machinery.
Have you flown in any films?
Well, we did the soundtrack, didn't we?
Dunkirk.
Yeah, I got a call from Ben. In fact, it was a good one, isn't it? Because you worked out the price quite quickly, didn't you? For
Yeah. Film I put a few zeros in it.
was it £1 a second?
Yeah, well no, it was standard rental rate, but they wanted to
£1 a minute.
No, £1 a second.
£1 a second.
Yeah, they that's what we would charge for a display. Airborne time for a display is £1 a second. In Spitfires, yeah. That's where the cost for flying in the 2 seats comes from. If you actually break down the cost, you look at the price, you go, bloody hell. But if you actually break down the cost, you see where the money goes, and it's not a cheap game to be in. And with them, they wanted a lot of sounds of it starting, shutting down, time on the ground. So instead of an airborne rate, it was just an engine running rate. But they used a whole tank of fuel, didn't they? You were
40 minutes on the ground, and then it was just.
They set you up for another 40, 45 to.
The scene in Dunkirk where the engine's faltering, he's running out of fuel. They'd done all this shooting with 3 Mark 1s, and JR was in the bush on 109. But apparently they just forgot to get any audio, so they had no sound of a Merlin. So literally, it was just a up and down, and it's you know, just be gentle with it. But if you throttle back very much, she'll just backfire. You just get a bit of a crackle. So it was just to get a tiny crackle, and then on the ground it was magnetos on and off, and really making her splutter. That we
really nice, isn't it?
No, but we're trying to do this, and the Mark 9's got 2 radiators and 1 oil cooler. So whereas the Battle Brit Spitfire's just got 1 radiator, so they will overheat, absolutely. Whereas the Mark 9 doesn't. You know, very hot days she might do, but it's surprising she'll keep cool. But even then, after about 40 odd minutes, you know, she was up to about 150. That was it. But they wanted, even then, let's have 1 more. And eventually we went, no. But there were microphones inside the engine bay. It was amazing, wasn't it, how they did it. So all the audio from that film.
Well, they had 30 different microphones on the airplane they were recording. You opening and shutting the canopy.
It's incredible, yeah.
Things like starter motors. They had a microphone on the air intake so they could get the sound of the air going into the engine and things like that. So,
But the film, the owner watched it in Hong Kong and sat there, and he was the only person left in the cinema watching the credits going.
We were an afterthought, definitely.
No,
afterthought. But
we've done a few good ones. We've done. Does anyone watch The Crown on Netflix? It's about the royal family. It's one of the biggest budget TV series out there, and the series 2 is about to come out, and it's half done. And one of the flights and cruises we do, as well as flying in a Spitfire, we use a single-seater formation flying, and that's when you can fit your gun sights on and try and shoot down the dove.
this one here, the silver blue.
Prince Philip has flown that aircraft.
Yeah, that used to be the medium transport airplane, so it ties in quite nicely with what we did.
And actually, that aircraft was the personal transport Sir Basil Embry, who flew Blenheims in World War II, shot down. Was one of the few officers to see the German victory parade in Paris while he was on the run. He unfortunately did in a couple of guards when he escaped, and then got back via Spain to Britain and flew Mosquitoes, including the raid on the Gestapo headquarters in Denmark. But it's difficult to track him because he flew under Wing Commander Smith, because the Germans, if they caught him, they're going to execute him immediately. So quite a legend. So it's got some nice history associated with it. A beautiful platform. Parky will tell you better than I can about flying alongside them.
Have any of you done that flight? I thoroughly enjoy those. That's generally done with the single-seater, TD obviously, and then, good for about 160 miles an hour. So, you know, again, it's not a speed regime that the speed probably be a bit faster would be ideal, but you can absolutely really, break out to get the lovely elliptical wing, and then immediately manoeuvre back and then join straight into close on the other wing. And you really see just the handling qualities of the Spitfire. It's not, it's aggressive is the wrong word, but it is manoeuvring positively, and it is just a flight regime that Spit just laps it up. It's just extraordinary aircraft, how agile it is, even on the wing of a Devon. Brilliant.
I presume, I know you're going to be a bias obviously, but compared to flying alongside Spitfire and Dragon P,
Which is
as
horrible.
a competitor, presumably the actual view is much better.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, I haven't, but you've got a biplane, so you've got just so much more in the way, and you're at 110 in a rapide if you're lucky, I imagine. I have done Spitfire early days with a helicopter actually. There's about 105, but do it. But it was, it's a bit more mushy. It's not really the regime where she wants to be.
And we trialled all of them. So there's an old company called Go Action Stations there that they used to do, before you could fly in a 2-seat Spitfire, they used to do the formation flying over from Whitehall to Dover. And when we came and started doing passenger flying, they blamed their downfall on the fact you didn't have flying a Spitfire. But that's not what we have seen. An equal share. It's back up to the good old days of exactly where it was. There's no shortcoming people wanting to do both. We first did it with the helicopters when we bought the brand. That wasn't working, as you were saying. They were just too slow, and they don't manoeuvre like a fixed wing. And then you get somebody sat in a middle seat, and it's how do you charge for that? And someone sat at the front who's got a great view, got a real nice perspex dome over them, but the people in the back with tiny little windows like this. That wasn't working for us. We then rented in a Dragon Repeat and gave that a go. And again, it's just, there's too much in the way. Typically people doing this want to see the aeroplane they're looking at, not behind a load of scaffolding. That's what it looks like through the lens. It will look like the scaffolding in the way.
The first time we ran it, people were getting on with lenses. They're like, you open those. It's going to be right on you.
And then the Dove. So the Dove came up for sale from Air Atlantique, and we trialled it. So we rented it in for one event, and it worked so well that we bought it straight away. There was a company in Chichester trying to do the same thing, and the Classic Wings both tried to buy the Dove before we could get it.
Actually,
It's comfortable. Leather seats, ashtray. It's just it's lovely aircraft, and it's
And that first flight I did I was co-pilot in that flight. I've got a twin rating. I was going to be allowed to go, but somebody broke the headset. I've never forgiven him.
It's 1946. Is it? So it's a very similar era actually to TD. So they were both flying at the same time. So it's perfect. I genuinely think it is a brilliant air-to-air.
The thing about the Dove is that is that it's from 1946 it has flown to 2017. It hasn't like the Spitfire has been.
I mean that in itself is a good stat to have flown it.
We have its maintenance history. I mean, you can cover the whole wall with it. It's huge, folder after folder after folder after this modification, that modification, and then all the way through civilian life as well. Air Atlantique and what it did there.
The BBMF, I know, it wasn't really their decision, but we got the Dakota as the trainer for the Lancaster to replace it, and essentially it was the Devon, and it was just brilliant. For the engineers going away, it was leather armchair. It was just always serviceable. It was a fabulous aircraft, and I know we miss it. I have probably buy it back, but it really has been. I commend the flying lids as well. They're absolutely brilliant product. I think great fun.
And you get one couple.
Yes.
So you get the propeller, the cable memorial in the background. And it's just brilliant. It's ticking so many boxes. It's great.
We've done a few good ones as well. So it's someone flying in the 2-seat Spitfire wants their family to formate on it.
That's good. The flyweights with the Harvard as well, that's very good. So we've done some yes, but just 2-seat Spitfire, and the Harvard, it is a cheaper aircraft to operate. So Ben's the money man, but circa 500 quid. Then you've got your mate in the Harvard, and we can then do some formation together. So he's actually looking at his mate in the Spitfire, and again you're close. You're waving at each other. Do a little bit of a tail chase, and then maybe the Spit will leg it, go to cable.
Hang on, I think we've got a sail.
But again,
get the card reader.
I think these are the products almost that we sort of, we've done a few of this, like, to my mind, they're really good. That small bit of extra really enhances the fun aspect of it. You're starting up together 2 aircraft with your mate. It's really good.
See, we also operate PB202, which belongs to the Aircraft Restoration Company. And side by side, those flights are very good.
Yes,
formation,
two Spitfires.
Doesn't matter.
What's the situation with if you fly in the rear seat of the Spitfire, is a camera's an absolute no-no?
Cameras in the aeroplane are a no-no. Any loose articles for that matter. You don't need it because we have invested heavily in a camera system for our T9. It's got a camera in the tail looking down over the fuselage, over the wings, and you might have seen some clips online. There's another one in the cockpit looking back at you, recording all the silly faces that you pull.
And the comms, so, you know,
or how pale you go when you go. And then what will be live the next time is the gun firing button does link to the camera system. You can hit the firing button; it will bring up the gun camera footage in the screen. It's very good. Next year it'll have crosshairs on it, so they'll be working for formation, take it white flying and shoot her down the hill. It's really good. And it records RT, it records the intercom as well between yourself and Parky.
You get that on a memory stick. I think it's an amazing product.
So it's really comes straight out of the USB stick.
Have you considered the camera somewhere on the wing, pointing so they actually see you in the cockpit?
They do it every now and then with GoPros, but having for the last 5 years rigged these aeroplanes up with cameras here, there and everywhere. The shots that people want is where they're going and themselves.
Yeah, so that you do get a picture of yourself from the cockpit. So it's great, you know, that's superposed bottom right. You know, I think it's a pretty
tissue dispensers for tears.
Yeah.
I've spoken to a couple of guys who've done it, and they say it's so intense from the smell and the noise, and you just can't take it all in. So it's not an exercise in narcissism. It's wanting to see what you actually did, but didn't really have the emotion.
Exactly. And I think that's why we have a lot of people come back, because my uncle did it last year, and the build-up was virtually in tears because they arranged for him to unwrap his present, which started with a bar of Aero. He was just completely overwhelmed by it, so he wants to go again. This is the second time, and we found that a lot.
We had a chap come down from Durham, didn't we? He flew for an hour in the morning with Charlie Brown. We sat there all day watching flying, just taking it in, and couldn't go home, so he flew with you again in the afternoon.
It was 81, wasn't it?
And there's just booked a flight for 2 hours.
2 hours to Durham.
Yeah.
2 flights to Durham.
Flight to Durham.
You're going to see check how much fuel's in NH. Yeah. But I mean, it is a lot. But you know, I mean, I remember. Yeah, so we really genuinely try to keep it friendly and you know, the whole experience, you know, flying a Spitfire. And I remember just, you know, one that just springs to mind, just chatting to the family as the gentleman's being strapped in. And it's like, so, you know, what was his present? And it was a Father's Day present from all the kids, and they saved 3 years. You know, it was like, wow, what a fabulous moment I'm sharing here. And, you know, things like that, it's just brilliant, absolutely.
I think that's
what a great day.
The video is they can then take it home and the whole family can enjoy it together. So whilst typically it's a big family occasion, these days these aren't just you go along by yourself, you go in the aeroplane by yourself and go, well, that was nice. It was, you will have some family there. And we've had days where someone brings their wife and they might bring 30 of their friends and family.
We've also had some famous flyers, I think it's worth mentioning a couple of those. Freddie Forsyth, the author. He came down, he was put in a Spitfire in 1944 by his father. But then when he took off and flew in vampires,
that's it.
He was desperate to fly it, obviously he was very successful. He came down on his own and had a lovely chat to him, I did about fishing mainly. But anyway, lovely bloke. We've had Paul Hollywood.
Yep.
Come down and flew.
Kelly Brooks.
Oh yeah. That caused me.
Sorry, I lost it there.
Yeah, we're hoping she comes back, aren't we, Parky?
Yeah, didn't you all fly your time?
With sheer luck. In fact, I mean, genuinely, Ben said there's a VIP coming for something, but we didn't know who it was, did we? It was amazing, yeah.
We also had not Roger Glover, the other guy, from Pink Floyd. So my claim to fame is I actually guided, Dave Gilmour, I actually guided his foot onto the arm.
So still haven't washed your hands.
No.
Yeah. But I think the big, for all of us, the big thing is having the veterans come down. The guys who flew before and done a lot with Rodney, haven't we?
Rod, yeah, he's absolutely brilliant. And his signature, I was looking at it today when I jumped into TV, Rodney's Grace is on the, but he was, you know, there's a picture of Rodney when he was 1920, you know, what a dashing bloke he was, you know, just a very, very...
And have a look at
Scary
the
thought
Yeah.
at that age doing what they were
Oh
doing.
yeah, oh brilliant, yeah.
You also
Yeah.
see some of the ATA ladies beside the door of TV as well. So we've spoken to all of those Miriams and people like that. They're fantastic pilots. And I spoke to them and said, so what happened? Turn up at the factory, there's the Spitfire, here's the book, get in it, fly to Tangier. That was it. So unbelievable pilots. And so you'll see some of their signatures on
Yeah, the door's worth having a look at when you're waiting to get in. You'll see the signatures there. It's a lovely touch, you know, just those bits. Yeah.
Can I say a few thank yous for a few moments?
Yeah, of course.
Well,
Do you want to come?
I guess quite a few of you read the page, yeah? Does anyone not read the page? No, okay, so you all know roughly what I do with the page. I can only do that because owners and pilots play ball. They don't have to let us have access. They don't have to do it. And without naming names, there are some people who really make this hard. They don't let you have access. They won't tell you things. They, you know, you're not allowed to touch their aircraft and all the rest of it. And I've got to say, not just because we're stood here, but Aero Legends are at the forefront of being friendly and letting the public get there. Anyone can go to Headcorn. Anyone can go and stand down there. You can take your own flask of tea. You don't spend a penny. As you said, you can almost be touching them as they land. And that attitude isn't common. So I've got to thank you guys. Thank you for today, because I offered this opportunity to all of the owners, and Aero Legends were the only one that said, yeah, we'll do it. Then I've got to do a big thank you, because I asked you to do a sit-in event. I didn't ask them to give you guys the chance to fly. That is from them, and that's a big thing to do. So thank you.
And that was the best £20 I've ever spent.
No, seriously. I mean, I've had opportunities to have people with other owners at different hangars and all the rest of it. No one has ever said, do you think we should do a draw? Should we let people have a chance to fly? And it's a big thing to do. Also, thank you for the access that you give me, because you know that I can share that with all of you guys, and we love it, and we get it, and we love dealing with you, Parky, and all that you do with the flying. Thank you for taking me up, scaring me with this.
Can I say, Greg is the most nervous passenger ever?
I just want to point out best bit of our pilot and worst.
I will fess up, I have terrible sinus trouble, and it makes me feel sick, and Parky's going, this is wonderful. And if you look on my video, the first like 15 minutes of it, I'm all grinny and smiley, and it's wonderful. It's brilliant, Nick. You've seen it. Then he says, you've got to do a victory roll. I want to do a victory roll. He says, don't do a victory roll. I want to do a victory roll. And I'm so glad I did a victory roll. And I'm so glad I didn't throw up until I left the airport.
It was the gentlest bit, I just swear. But it was a pleasure, Greg.
It was
a lovely evening.
I mean, the guys are talking about flying over Leeds Castle and those kind of things. I mean, it's ridiculous. You are flying in a Spitfire over the very fields that the Battle of Britain is full. And if it doesn't get you, and you don't get a lump in the throat when you've done it and seen it, then there's something wrong with it. I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for today. Thank you for taking the challenge and doing it. And thank you for making it so special and going the extra mile. Cheers, guys.
Well, Sophie, I believe we're on time.
We're fine with time, yeah.
We're bang on time. So what we can do now is break up, we'll go down to the aeroplane, we'll do the sit-ins. We're going to take 4 or 5 people through the fence at a time, so you get some nice pictures around the aeroplane, and we'll sit you in as you go, and keep 4 or 5 people out there at a time. We'll be down there for chats anyway, so if there's any questions you haven't asked.